Uncut Magazine's Decades, number 498. So if you've seen the other two videos in this series, Uncut Magazine ranks their 500 greatest albums of each decade. And since there are so many albums that I've never heard, I decided to approach this by comparing the same album number from each decade. So at 498 in the 1960s, Uncut Magazine chose Sonny Rollins' The Bridge. Now, this is an album that I'd never heard. I did a little bit of research on this album. I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time on this. So I'm going to read you a little bit of what I found on Wikipedia. In 1959, feeling pressured by the unexpected swiftness of his rise to fame, Rollins took a 3-year hiatus to focus on perfecting his craft. A resident of Lower East Side of Manhattan with no private space to practice, he took his saxophone up to Williamsburg Bridge to practice alone. So Sonny Rollins is a tenor saxophonist. He is called the greatest living improviser. And there are 6 songs on this album, all between 5 to 8 minutes. 4 of them are classics and 2 of them he wrote himself. The first song is called Without a Song, and this comes from a musical, Great Day, from 1929. Now, many people have recorded this. It's become quite a standard. Sinatra recorded this with the original lyrics, and the original lyrics use the word darky. There is a part of this song where they're going by a field and there's somebody working the fields. They're saying basically people couldn't get through life without having song in their life.
When things go wrong, a man ain't got a friend without a song.
Sinatra re-recorded the song later, and he removed that lyric, got rid of the word darky and put in man. One time there was a radio broadcast and they broadcast the original song, and the radio company actually apologized later. I'm not sure if it was the radio or Sinatra for choosing the earlier version with the offensive lyric. And Sonny Rollins' version seems to be a little bit more up-tempo. Song number 2 is Where Are You? From the 1937 film Top of the Town. Many people have recorded this, but I'm going to include Bob Dylan's version. Bob Dylan's later voice can be hit or miss, but there's a lot of surprising beauty in his voice, even as he's older. For me, when I listen to a lot of Bob Dylan's voice in a row, it kind of gets on my nerves, but I often find that when I hear songs in isolation, I'm immediately drawn in. He does a fabulous job on this song.
Where have you gone without me? I thought you cared about me. Where are you?
Song number 3 is first song on this album that he wrote, and it's called John S. So I researched this, and this was written for the first New York Times critic to write exclusively about popular music and jazz. And the 4th song is called The Bridge, and again, he wrote this song. And since this is also the title of the album, it's most likely going to refer to the bridge where he worked and practiced for 3 years to hone his craft. 5th song is a very popular standard. By Billie Holiday, called God Bless the Child.
Mama may have hot Martha may have. But God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own.
And the sixth song is by one of my favorite standards writer, and that is Cole Porter, called You Do Something to Me. I'm going to give a clip of Sinead O'Connor singing this song. I honestly want to put the entire song here. I think Sinead does such an amazing job, and I was captivated. I just love her, and I love this song. That's my bias. Let's go ahead and hear Sinead's version of this song.
Let me live beneath your spell. Do that voodoo that you do so well.
Next, we have Judy Garland singing this song.
You have the power to hypnotize me. Let me live beneath your spell.
So what did I think about this album overall? It took me a little while to warm up to this album. When I listened to this album and just sat and listened to it, I didn't enjoy it that much. This is often improvisational jazz, and that is not my forte. However, once I started listening to this album as background music for when I was reading, I really started to like this album. I don't know if that, like, I would not make a good music critic, because possibly to say that you like an album as background music is not very high praise, but I did really start to like this album. I found that I would be humming along as I was reading. I would start humming along to a couple of the tunes, especially the ones I knew, the last two on the album. And I really started to appreciate the other songs upon multiple listens. Now, there are going to be times in this album where he will take the tune and he will warp it and it will get very beboppy. Those are not my favorite parts of the album, but there is a lot of beauty in this album. Number 498 for the decades of the 70s is Neil Young's Rust Never Sleeps from 1979. A recent YouTuber that I've been following thanks to Embryonic Robot is Mark Morris, and he actually just recommended the album On the Beach by Neil Young in his Albums I Love series.
On the beach.
On the beach. On the beach.
Now, I'd never actually heard this album in its entirety, but I did have the cassette version of Decade, which is a greatest hits compilation. I loved that cassette. So Rust Never Sleeps is Neil Young's 10th album, and it's the third one with Crazy Horse. This album combines both studio and live tracks. It had a hit single with Hey Hey My My. And the song Powderfinger is critically acclaimed. This album, along with Ragged Glory, are considered precursors to the grunge movement. So Nirvana and Pearl Jam cite Young's heavily distorted and abrasive guitar style on side B as inspiration.
To sleep with Pocahontas and find out how she felt in the morning on the fields of green.
And when I was young, I listened to the album Decade over and over again, and it did not contain any of Neil Young's abrasive guitar work. Now, I've seen Neil Young a few times in concert, and I've listened to his more, I'm going to call it grungy type albums. For me, I just prefer his high lilting singing style, his wavering voice.
I'm gonna ride my lamb from Peru to Texarkana. I wanna ride him good in my old neighborhood.
With a simple acoustic accompaniment. He has so many beautiful songs and beautiful lyrics. that are just showcased in this style. The more heavily distorted guitar songs on side B took me a while to get into. I still don't prefer them as much as side A, and this is still not my favorite Neil Young album. Number 498 for the 80s decade is Madonna's first self-titled album. And what to say about this album? If you know my channel at all, Madonna is my husband's favorite. If I say anything bad about this album, he's gonna get me. So you have to take my recommendation with a grain of salt, because there's someone behind the curtain pulling my strings. I think there are 8 songs on this album, and song after song was a smash hit. Lucky Star, Borderline, Burning Up, Holiday, to a lesser extent, Everybody. And then there were some club hits, Think of Me and Physical Attraction. So that leaves one song on this album that wasn't either being played in the clubs or played on the radio, and that is I Know It. Now, if you've never heard this song, you're gonna hear that this song immediately brings you to the 80s and gives you that 80s vibe. This album is danceable pop at its finest. This is just a fun album. I don't think it's Madonna's best, but for her first outing, this really set the stage, and this album was so influential, just like all the others on this list. Needless to say, I really enjoyed this album. The 1990s pick for number 498 is 1996's Super Discount by Etienne de Crécy. So this is a really fun dance electronic record that's going to have loops, beats, sound bites. The most interesting part is how they will take a beat and slowly change it. Now, I know many artists have done that, but this is still a really fun, danceable electronic record. That brings us to the rankings for 498. Which decade will win out? With 1 star, I give the 90s Super Discount. Now again, that doesn't mean it's a bad album, it's just the others were better. At 2 stars, we're jumping to the 70s with Neil Young's Rest Never Sleeps. Now this is a great album. For me, it's not consistent. Of course, it's influential, but I don't always like to hear influential. Number 3 goes to a surprise for me. On initial listen, I thought this would be at number 1, and that's going to be the 60s Sonny Rollins' The Bridge. This record surprised me, it grew on me, but the number 1 spot is going to go to the 1980s, and that is Madonna. Now, some people will argue that how could I ever choose Madonna over a jazz legend's album, Sonny Rollins' The Bridge? And I'm just gonna say that I consistently enjoyed Madonna from beginning to end. I can sing to it, I can dance to it, it's fun, and Sonny Rollins is most appreciated when I'm reading. Remember, all comments are appreciated. Please remember to always be more intelligent.